Some water. Hi everyone, welcome to Keith Baker Boy's pork pie class, and we welcome you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you can, or join us on Facebook on Jambon de Printemps for any tips or baking information you need for our baking classes, bed and breakfast, and Le Cafe, which is not open yet. You can also join us there on Facebook, but we will be open in the near future. Today's class is pork pie, a very simple pastry, a very different pastry than normal pastry. Why is it different? Because we heat up our liquid and our water and our fat to add to our flour. So our pastry is actually warm when we use it. And the reason why that is because it makes it possible to shape it and mold it over something. It's a very old kind of pastry, which was used to make things like meat pies and pork pies, and still is. With our pork pie, we use a gelatine in there to preserve our pork pie. And I think that's the big part of this pie, is to preserve the pie with a gelatine, and you get that jelly flavor around the edge of your pork, which is really nice. So today's class is in two parts. The first part is the making of our pastry, the shaping of our pastry, the chopping of our meat and filling our pie, and the second part is, once it's baked, is just a short bit where we fill it full of gelatine. I will show you each stage, and it should be about an hour's worth of baking. I hope you enjoyed our last baking class of macaroon. I think we had quite a few people who joined us for that. Today, I'm not sure how many people will be around to do it, but as many as you join, fantastic, that'll be great. Today we've been baking a little bit. We made some sourdough French rolls, where I made a starter last night with a little flour, water and yeast. And when I say yeast, it was kind of that of yeast, just like a pinch, which I used last night as a starter. And then I added my sourdough starter to that with a little flour and water today, and produced a lovely French roll. I shall show you those. Oh, excuse me, fall over. A little petit pain, and these are a beautiful little lunchtime snack roll, like a little mini baguette, really. So I made that from my sourdough starter, with just that little sprinkle of yeast in my starter last night. If you want to learn how to make a starter, I have a YouTube collection of videos which takes you through the process of making your starter. And then you can use it forevermore without using any yeast if you want. I also have a video on there of how to make a baguette if you're interested. So let's continue today's class with pork pie. So I have posted a recipe on Facebook yesterday, so hopefully you managed to get some of the ingredients. There's not too many ingredients apart from the main ones, which is your pork, obviously. Now, we use lard in pork pie, but you can use butter. It will work the same, different flavor slightly, but it does work the same. So if you don't have lard in your cupboard or your fridge, then you can use butter, okay? Unsalted butter always with baking, so that you can control your salt levels. So the ingredients are as follows. We have 285 grams of flour, all-purpose flour. We have 100 grams of lard or unsalted butter. We have salt and pepper, and we have water. Very simple. Meat, I had 2 shoulder chops, which I had in the freezer, which I thawed out, and there you go. And what I've done, I've taken the bone off of each chop, and what I do is I boil up those bones in a minute and get the juice from the bones to make our gelatine, and add a gelatine leaf to make that solidify. And we'll chop up the pork. I also add a little bit of bacon. Here in France, we have our lardons. So little bits of bacon bits, which I chop up and chuck in as well. Flavor, that's a salted bacon pieces, smoked, sorry, bacon. So to begin the process, it's very simple. We already have our flour weighed up. So if you don't have your flour, it's 285 grams. So you can weigh that up. The other things you're going to need to make this pork pie is a saucepan, 2, 1 for your bones, 1 for your melting of your butter and heating of the water, and a mold or a shaped bowl for your pork pie. Now I have these wonderful things here, which we can use for creme brulee, or you can use for a mold for a pork pie. Or my children have ice cream in it in the evening, but there you go. What we do is we cover that in some cling wrap, like so, and I'll show you that as we go along. And then we put our pastry over this, and that will be our mold for our pork pie. And then when we flip it over, we take out the base, and we have a pork pie ready to fill. If you don't have a little jar like that, you can use a little jam jar, or this is a pickled it's a ratatouille oil jar. You can just put your pastry over the same thing with a cling wrap over the top, and your pastry, same thing, just don't go all the way down to the end. Otherwise, you'll have this really tall pork pie. You don't want that. You want it about that big. Okay, so anything will do. A cup is not so good because it's got a handle, but a glass or anything like that. Okay, so to start the process, we simply are going to melt our lard or our butter in our water. And we need to use the stove for that. So Laura is sitting here quietly texting on Facebook if anybody needs to speak to her. She will take the camera in a second and show you what I'm going to do. But first of all, I'm going to pour my 120 grams of water, cold water, into my pan. So, and I'm going to drop in my 100 grams of lard. Like so. There we go. Simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat this so that the lard dissolves. Once it's dissolved into the water, which will just about be boiling, we are then going to pour it directly into our flour. But first of all, before we heat that up, what I like to do with the flour is season it. Okay, so I'm going to put a little pinch of salt. So I've got about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which I flopped in there. And I always put my pepper in my pork pie. Don't ask me why, I've always done it. So I put a little shake of the old pepper in there, and then I just stir that together like so. So it's ready for the liquid as it comes. Okay, so Laura's now going to bring the camera to the stove, just to this bit, just so we can dissolve our butter or our lard. This takes a couple of minutes. It's very simple. All we do is simply get that heated up and start to melt. Now this pork pie recipe I've had for quite a while. The pork pie has been around a long time, and I think used probably a lot during the war times in England, especially, where people like to have meat pies, pork pies, and preserve them. And I think you know, they needed to keep things for a long time, so this was the best sort of way to have a meat preserved, so that they have it, you know, for a couple of weeks in the larder if they haven't got the fridge or wherever. So it's just slowly melting there. All the way through this video, if you have any questions or anything like that, please text us on, message us on Facebook or here on the YouTube channel. And if you don't get to see it today, then I'm sure you'll see it another day. We do keep these on our YouTube channel all the time for people to watch. Please, if you can, subscribe and share to friends. Share this and our Facebook page so that we get more followers for future business. I know at the moment it's very difficult with everybody stuck at home and everybody's doing this, and you probably are, you know, watching a movie or something else. But for future, I think this is going to be quite a popular thing for everybody, is YouTube and, you know, learning videos. So let's just go back to the pan. There we go. And it is nearly there, but not quite. It's not boiling yet, but we're just waiting for that to just dissolve. I'm keeping it on the heat. just getting that down to the bottom. Nearly there. My wife is whispering to me behind.
Okay, I won't whisper.
Behind the screen, which is very strange.
No, I'm not.
Because I'm wondering whether people can hear.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not.
But anyway,
not
so
important.
there you go. She's dissolved down. Laura's going to bring the camera back over. Okay. There we go. So we have our flour and our liquid. I'm going to point the camera down a little bit now for the bowl, and you're going to watch as I do this. Okay. There it is. I'm going to pour that straight in to my bowl. I'm going to make sure all the liquid is out because we need every drop. It's all measured. And then I'm going to simply stir it round. Stirring it round just to get it to come to a ball. You don't want to put your hands with this straight away because, as I say, it's hot, but once it's added to the flour, it starts to cool down a little bit. You want to use this pastry while it's hot and not let it get cold. You want it warm, but you'll see that in a minute. So we're just bringing it together. I'm trying to just make sure I've incorporated all the flour, and then I will actually knead it on the table. Okay. It's a very simple process. But all of a sudden you see it come together. And there it is, like a ball in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that out. It's a little bit warm, but it's okay. Bring it out onto the table there. And simply just knead it a little bit. I want to knead it so it comes together. I don't want to knead it for too long, but a little while. I'd like to get a little bit of smoothness to it, bring it together. I'm not doing this too roughly. It's just a gentle knead, just to get it to come together to form a dough. It's nice and warm and pliable. Now, out of this mix, I get 3 pies. 3 pies at that size. Okay, so if you can imagine, it's that. When it comes out, it's like that. So it's about a good size pie. Perfect for one for lunch. You can do mini ones of these in your baking cupcake pan or something like that, a batter pudding pan or something like that if you want. Okay, there we go. There's our dough. Beautiful, nice and just shaped and molded together. And you can see the lard, it's a bit greasy, but that's nice, that's good. We want that. We know we like the fat in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically roll this out into a large circle. Now, for my pie, and if you've got cutters at home, that's great. For my pie shape, I have 2 lids, which actually work perfectly. This one for the top, which goes for the lid of the pie, and this one which goes for the shape of the actual bowl of the pie. This one we get is a little bit short on the sides, but we like to shape it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. Also, we need to cling wrap a couple of our molds. I have one done already, so I shall show you how to do that. So you tear off a piece of cling film, cling wrap, pull it over your pot and just stretch it so that it's tucked inside. Okay, like so. Beautiful. Okay, do the other one of them so we get 3 of those. Bit of cling wrap, cling film, or whatever you want to call it. Put it over your mold. Very simply wrap it over like so. Okay, we've got 3 of those. Okay, so now I'm just going to roll out my pastry. Flour. Bit of flour on the table, bit of flour on the pie. I was nominated to share my favourite utensil, an oldest utensil in our kitchen, which happens to be my rolling pin. So that is my favourite and well-used utensil that I have, which I use for such things as pork pies and croissants And I bash my fat with it when I'm making pieces of fat flat for lamination. So there's my pastry. I then bring over my moulds, 2, 3. What I like to do with my moulds is I just dip them in the flour just so that the top is covered. And why is that? That just helps it slip off even better when we come to remove it in a little while. Okay, so I'm simply going to cut 3 circles like so. And I'm going to take the rest of the pastry for the top in a minute. Okay, so I take my pie and I just stretch it a little bit just to start it off, and then I just lay it over, gently pushing it from the top. I'm going to basically pull it and stretch it so that it drops down. And a lot of this is its own weight, it's doing this. Drops down near the bottom of my little pot. Now, if you're going to do this over a cup and it's not the same kind of distance, then it's about as much as my thumb going down. If I had a ruler, I do have a ruler actually, it's over there. Maybe Laura will go and get it. It's on the piano, Laura. And then we can measure the exact depth of that piece of pastry to the pie. And as you see there you have your pie.
Turn the light on.
You can turn the light on, yeah, that's great. Which is exactly 4.5 centimeters. 4.5 to 5 centimeters, basically. So there's one. Do that again. Take our pie, just loosen it off a little bit. Drop it on. Try and get it central when you drop it on. Give it a little push on the bottom so that that's a little bit thinner, because it's a bit thick. And as you see, it slowly, it does it itself. It kind of falls down, which I like itself. It doesn't take too much pulling. And then move that to there. And then we do it with the third one. Same thing. And I'm just going to drop it on like so. And I kind of like the flecks of pepper that you see in the pastry. That's why I say I like to season my pastry as much as I do my meat. Okay. And then what I tend to do then is I just sort of lift up and just thumb down the end just so it reaches the bottom. Like so. Okay. And then I'll do the same with that one. Just thumb down the end so that it reaches the bottom. It doesn't have to get exact to the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfectly neat, because I'm going to show you a little crimping trick, which I like, which means you don't have to be perfect neat edges. So these are now going to go in my fridge for about 15 minutes while I prepare the meat. So I'm going to quickly take these over to the fridge. Just slide them in as they are like this into the fridge, so that the pastry sets. Okay. Could you get me a little beverage?
Yeah.
So while we're doing this, and we've still got the pastry so we can clean our table afterwards, we're going to quickly mix our make our tops. So again, there's fancy a nice Pinot with an ice cube.
Oh, you're taking orders.
Today's pork
And
pie.
this is a Pinot, a local Pinot.
A local Pinot. It's an organic, isn't it?
Yes.
An organic Pinot. And if anybody doesn't know what it is,
Well, we can do some cross advertising.
well, yeah, we can post today's beverage, and I think we should do that with a lot of our YouTube videos. Let's have a beverage of the afternoon, because it's not morning time for me. If you're over in the US or Cayman or Bermuda or wherever else you could be, Canada. It is daytime. It is afternoon. It is 4:30, which is a perfectly civilized time to enjoy a Pinot.
You checked, is anyone commented? No comments today, but that's all right.
Anyway, so I'm just going to get, that's what I'm doing, is I'm just making this big enough for 3. All in one big roll. There we go. So I'm going to do 2 actually, and then just do another one. So we cut our top. It's perfect size.
If you'd like to show the bottle.
Okay, this is my drink of the day.
From just near Cognac.
And it's just up the road from us, about an hour from our house. So if you're ever coming visiting and maybe staying at our little bed and breakfast, we can easily set you up with a visit to Cognac to go cognac tasting and Pinot. So we have our 3 tops. We've got a spare bit there, which you can give to Beatrice when she wakes up. At the moment, she's asleep. So then, once we have our 3 tops, there's one other thing I like to do while they're there, is I'm going to put a little hole in. And you can use whatever you've got available. I have a little piping tube, which I cut a hole out. And the reason we have that is for our filling of our gelatine. We need somewhere to put it in the pie once it comes out the oven. Okay, so there is our 3 tops with our holes in, and they will sit onto one side while we wait for our pastry to harden a little bit before we fill. So let's move to the important part of a pork pie. It's all important, is the meat. So here I have 2 chops, and these are deboned. I took the bone off of each one. These are shoulder pork chops, and I've taken the bone off. Okay, so I'm going to put the bone into my saucepan. I'm going to fill it with about 200 or 300 grams of water and pop it on the stove just to bubble away to get the fat and the juice and the marrow from the bone to add for stock. For the pork pie. You want to simmer that for at least an hour, not an hour, at least half an hour, just to get the flavour at those, or you can go longer if you want. You can go for an hour if you like. For today's purpose, we want to. So with our pork, I simply am going to cut our pork into little chunks. Now, I don't profess to be a butcher. I know a few butchers. But I don't actually profess to be one. When I was a little boy, I worked in a butcher shop. I used to wash the floor in the evenings, and I used to make the dog food mince. That was about as much butchery as I did, and it wasn't pleasant. Hence the bakery next door. I used to smell the bread when I finished work, and I used to go and talk to the baker, and ended up washing his floor and sitting in a nice warm oven in the middle of the winter by a nice warm oven, smelling hot bread coming out the oven. And there you go. The story tells that I am a baker because of that. And my grandmother, who used to bake all the time, beautiful pies and pastries. And she used to never make pork pies, but she used to make a lot of meat pies, steak pie, steak and kidney, chicken and mushroom, rabbit. So yeah, you want to just chop all your pork into chunks. And we got some comments, Laura, if you would like to make
Let's
check.
see.
I'm not sure who's there and available.
That's a good looking pork chop there. Fritzy's watching.
Oh, good. I hope you're going to be making these for Huey. So I did nominate my good friend Huey, a baker in the Cayman Islands, to share his favourite utensil. Although, to be honest with you, his lovely wife Fritzy does most of the cooking, but I'm sure he has something in his kitchen which he will share. He'll probably share his wife as his favourite utensil, because that's the kind of crazy person he is. No disrespect to his lovely wife.
She's gonna try and make it.
Good girl. You may have a little bit of meat over, but that's all right. You can always chuck it in a curry or something else later if you want. Depending on the size of your mould. But I normally say that 2 chops easily and nicely does 3 or 4 pies. Sometimes I add lardons, sometimes I don't. Or bacon, whatever you want to call it. It depends. If I've been to the supermarket and I've thought about it and I've got some, then I will, but sometimes I don't. You can also add anything. That's a big bit of fat. I'm going to leave that one out. It's a bit of a hugie. You do want some fat, but not a pound of it. You can also add other flavours to your meat. You can season it with whatever you like, really. Some people like to make it a bit spicy, so they can put chili powder in it. They can put or curry powder in it, or hot sauce. You can put garlic. You can put thyme, rosemary, whatever your favourite herbs or spices are. You can add to your pork for your pork pie. Traditionally, it really is just salt and pepper and maybe a little parsley. But as I say, over the years, I don't think it's changed quite a bit, and there's many flavours. So as you can see, I've just about chopped all the meat. And if you're joining me on this bit, if you don't have shoulder pork, that's fine. You can use just regular, chopped pork leg, whatever you got. Belly pork work. Or you can do it with beef if you want to make a beef pie. You don't have to do a pork pie. You can do a beef pie with some stewing beef. Okay, so there it is. What I do with this is I pop it back into my bowl, and then I add my bacon bits. Now, my lardons here in France are already chopped, so I just take a nice little handful and then just dice them up a little bit as well. And it just gives it that little bit of a smokier flavour with some smoked bacon bits in. Okay, that's that. So now we have our meat chopped into our bowl. We're going to season that with a little bit of salt. And I'm going to put a little bit of pepper in there. For me, that's all I need, a bit of salt and pepper. As I say, for you guys, you want to put some chili powder in there. You want to put some garlic and thyme and basil, or basil, what you want to call it, or rosemary, whatever you want. Apple, I did one with apple once. So apple, chop it up into little bits and chuck apple in there. So what I do then is I mix it together, but I squeeze it together. I want to get some of the fat juices and juice of the meat to come out, and the bacon. And what I'm doing is I'm squeezing it like that. And what's happening is it's getting a bit juicier. Now, what happens when we put it into our pies, it becomes a little bit more pliable to make into like a little ball. We're going to make 3 balls of meat, which we're going to pop into our pie. Each pie I can smell my pork bones now bubbling away over on the stove. That's good. So we're getting a nice bit of pork flavours to go into our stock when we do it. As if you haven't got boned pork, then you can just get a stock cube, a vegetable stock cube. Chicken is okay, but watch your salt levels in your meat because it gets too salty. But a vegetable stock cube is okay. It's not too bad. So I'll push that together now so that we got like a bit more of a wet ball of meat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And we'll put that to one side.
Oh, excuse me.
Now, I used to work with a butcher in Bermuda who always put anchovy paste into his pork pie pastry. And I think that's for colour. He used to do that. But as I say, for our purpose today, we are just making it very simple. So there we go. This is my Pinot with ice cube. Pinot is a mixture, if you don't know, of cognac and wine. And this is a white wine and cognac. And there's also a beautiful red Pinot we have here, which they sell in all the supermarkets, all locally done in this Chiron area. It's very well known for this area. And I think, and someone's bound to tell me if I'm wrong, that it's the leftover wine when they make the cognac, and then they mix it with cognac and make this lovely Pinot. And I think it's about 50-50 wine and cognac, so it's quite potent. By the time we finish with this, please excuse me if I say anything untoward.
Not that.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring out our shaped molds, and hopefully they've set up enough for us to fill. Can you add the fat in the boiling pot for flavour? You certainly can. That's actually what I'm going to do with this little ball of fat here. Yes, you can certainly add your fat into your boiling pan. It's just going to add more flavour, which is what you want. Okay, so let's take that away. For egg wash. And today's egg pot will be, do that. Maybe Mama can open that egg packet.
Oh, you don't have an egg out.
And take an egg out for us.
Just one? One egg?
Yep, one egg.
One egg.
Okay. Sorry about that. Just had to get over. Today's egg pot is Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. So we're going to crack our one egg in there, like so. And I forgot. Could you pass me a fork, please?
Mm-hmm.
While you're on your feet over there, doing a fantastic job. So I have a baking tray prepared for our pies with a little bit of parchment paper on. Now, you want to set your oven for around 165, 170 centigrade Celsius and about 320 Fahrenheit, something like that, I think. That sounds right. Normally I've checked it, but I think that's about right. So I'll just whisk that together. Okay, I'm going to go and bring out our pies so you can see where we are with them. As I say, if you can leave them for around 15 to 20 minutes, they should be hot, solid enough to hold as a bowl. If you bring them out too far sometimes, then you put your meat in it, and slowly it just starts to lose its shape. So hopefully it's ready. So I'm actually going to preheat my oven now. Turn it on at 165 to 320 for you, 300, 320 for you guys, to get that oven nice and warm, ready for the pies to go in. Okay. Now, if your pies are not quite hard enough yet, just leave them in the fridge a little bit longer and just watch what I do, and then you can follow that in a minute. Hopefully these ones are okay. So again, I should drop the camera down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically remove my pie from my mold. Now I'm going to ease the edges, but there is a trick if it doesn't come off, which this actually did. And I don't think that's set enough. Oh, they're not too bad. Oh, they're okay. That's okay. That'll be fine. Okay. One. Now, what we don't want, you can do this. So you can pull your plastic out and you can just do that all around the edge. And it kind of helps when you lift it off. Two. And so if you left that for another 10 minutes, it would be even more hard for you guys to use. You don't want to have it too hard, though. You don't want to leave it overnight, because then it becomes unpliable. And you still got to put your top on. Okay, so 3 pies, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So then I'm going to take my meat and I'm going to break it into 3 balls. And I'm going to push a ball of meat together like so and drop it in the center. Pick up my other ball of meat, push it together and drop it in the center. And final third of meat, I do the same, push it together and drop it in the center. Okay, like so. All right. There we go. I take a little bit of egg and I just dab it around the edge of the pie, like so. Dab it around the edge, so, and then I drop my top into my pie. Just drop it on top for a second, like so. It's gone in a little bit, there we go. And then drop the third one, okay? Then I just basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off the tray again, he says. And I'm just going to just push the pie base in a little bit to the top and join them together, okay? Like so. Says. There we go. Okay. Put that on there. Just join them together like so in there and like so in there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pinch in the edges in opposites of each other like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Push my pie meat in. Make sure that's in there nicely. Push my pie meat in. Lovely. And there you have your pork pies. So now all we want to do is just give them a little bit of a wash with egg, so we get a little bit of a shine. As I say, these pies could have done with about another 10 minutes in the fridge. So when you come to do it, if you leave it just that little bit longer, you'll find that your base will hold up just that little bit longer. These are sunk slightly because I'm trying to get it in the time we're doing it. Rather than a 2-hour video that takes 3 weeks to download, I'm trying to do this in less than an hour. Okay. And then just a little bit of juice around the side, bit of egg wash around the side. Okay.
The video is black? Oh no. I hope not.
For who?
One of my friends. Hi, Chad.
It seems to be okay on our end.
Let me check on my phone.
Laura, if you check it.
I'm gonna check.
So if it's gone black, I am sorry. We're going to check that. I don't know why that would happen. In the meantime, I shall have another sip of Pinot.
It's the. Oh, I hope that. Hang on. Oh, he says we're good. Okay.
Ah.
Chad, are you making that? Are you making pork pies?
Pork pie. Pork pie. Red rum.
No, that's not a good joke.
That's not a good joke.
No.
Just for me. So there you go. Pork pies are ready. Oven's just about up to temperature. We're going to drop these in the oven for around 35 to 40 minutes. Okay.
Janine's watching. That's good. She says it's good.
35 to 40 minutes. As I say, if your pies are not quite ready and they're still a bit loose, don't take them out of the molds completely. Just leave them in the fridge for another 10 minutes, just so they set properly. I've speeded this up so that we're not here till tonight to do it. Okay, and then they'll hold their shape a little bit better. We raise piggies. Well, then you've got an endless supply of pork, and you'll be, in heaven making your pork pies. That'll be a new thing you can do. Pork pies for sale. Okay, so I'm going to pop these into the oven for around 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to show you how to make gelatine with the bones that I've been stewing when I come back. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a break for around 35 minutes while we do that. Laura is just going to put some water in this pot, and I will just show you quickly. If you're using gelatine or sheet gelatine, follow the instructions on your packet.
What do you have in the States, though?
Too much, just a little. Oh, that's it. Good. Bring it over.
Yes.
Yep. You can get powdered gelatine. Follow your instructions on your packet. You don't want to have anything that's got sugar or raspberry flavour, because that wouldn't be good. Well, you never know. Tear it up and then just add it to some water while you're cooking your pies. And what it will do is it will just soften if you're using this leaf gelatine. I'm going to put one into mine for this with about 120 grams of water, 130, something like that, of water. Of stock. But I'm just going to soak this in here just so it gets soft to add to my stock when I'm ready. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these little babies into the oven, and I will be back at exactly 4 quarter past 5.
30 minutes.
30 minutes, exactly. And the pies should be cooked, and we can pour our gelatine straight away into our pies. You have to do it when it's hot, okay? So if you're all okay, I shall join you again in 30 minutes. If there's any questions or anything you want to ask quickly while we're still online, I won't turn it off just yet. Please do. Anybody got any questions before we leave? My interlude. Yeah. Okay. See you in about 30 minutes. Bye.
That means it's gonna have a different